I don't think there's a problem with the 65 million willing to share the power. It's the 5 million. And you're exactly right. Iran has religious people, it has secular people, it has Orthodox Shia and Reformists, and Iran is all of those things. And we need to understand that a democratic Iran should accommodate all of those. And I think that the importance is that human rights is not about the acquisition of power. That's the difference between a human rights activist and a politician. Human rights is about speaking truth to power. And it's a never-ending process. Even if tomorrow there is a secular democratic republic in Iran, we will still need institutions that will speak truth to power if we're not going to lapse back into our authoritarian ways. And frankly speaking, the only difference between the leaders of, let's say, a Western democracy and leaders in Iran is that the leaders in a Western democracy can get away with less. It's not necessarily that there's going to be some intrinsic moral superiority. It's a question of what is the culture within which power is exercised. And in Iran, not just under the Islamic Republic, but under the monarchies and far beyond that, the culture was one of power is a license to abuse, as opposed to a responsibility to the people. And getting back to what Nazanin was saying and what the gentleman was saying, it's easy to discount the importance of discourse, what we're talking about today. There's a famous Canadian Supreme Court case about hate speech, which says that the Holocaust did not begin in the gas chambers of Nazi Germany, it began with words. And the creation of a free and democratic Iran, in which there's a culture of human rights, also has to begin with words, with the discourse that we have. We should make no mistake about it. It's the struggle of those who are in Iran, those who are willing to pay with their lives, that is ultimately going to change the reality. But I think that the diaspora, not just Iranians, but also civil society internationally, which is why I'm so grateful to Sir Henry and the many other dear friends who have no connection with Iran other than their belief in human rights, who are standing with us. We should look at the example of South Africa. How important international public opinion was in isolating South Africa and undermining it. The hard work and the heavy lifting was done by the people that struggled in South Africa, that were willing to be political prisoners and be abused. But I think that we also have a share to play. And the fact that the regime is so desperately trying to gain legitimacy now. I think one of the first things that Manouchev Mottaki, the foreign minister, did after the crushing of the protest was to offer a new package of proposals to the West. One of the first things that he did. The same regime that for 30 years chanted death to America now wants more than anything to be recognized by Washington so that it can gain the legitimacy that it needs to come back and decisively crush the opposition, something that is afraid to do now. And I think that it's our responsibility to make our voice heard and to make sure that the politics of foreign governments are to the interest of the Iranian people. I'm just going to say one final thing about the far right and the far left in the West. They are not that far apart because both of them have an essentialized image of the Islamic world and of Iran in particular. The right wing thinks the Islamic world is inherently backwards and incapable of democracy. So we need to invade and rebuild the society in our image. The far left believes that we are so politically correct and tolerant that we can even shake hands with President Ahmadinejad and give him airtime on Channel 4. Aren't we wonderful and tolerant? Never mind at whose expense it is. Both of them see Iranian society and other foreign societies as a fossil in a museum, as opposed to a dynamic, ever-changing reality. And the powerful thing about what happened 2-3 months ago is the rebuke to that view, both on the right and left wings of the spectrum, that somehow all Iranians are followers of President Ahmadinejad, that people in the Islamic world and Iran are not capable of democracy. And what I find particularly offensive among so-called progressive elements is the suggestion that this is just a bunch of bourgeois from northern Tehran who are pouring out into the streets. Whereas today, it's the Basij that are the bourgeois, because they're getting paid $2,000 a month to club and rape people.
all been very patient today. I'm sorry for all the problems at the start, and we've run over a bit. Thank you all very much for staying. I've been asked to say one or two words in conclusion before we have a beautiful singer speed us on our way to drinks next door. I remember St Paul's Cathedral being packed about 4 years ago with British human rights lawyers and those of us who were judges who were concerned about human rights overseas. And Desmond Tutu was speaking. And he said, "You have no idea what difference it made to us in South Africa, fighting the evil of apartheid, when we realized how much support we had from the likes of you. Let's all give each other a clap." And he had a great big smile, and we all clapped, although I'm sure we were unworthy of what he said. So far as Iran today is concerned, you've had speakers talk about the need for change among the people of Iran. I'm old enough to have watched that kind of change happening in totalitarian regimes all over the world. In countries behind the Iron Curtain, Chile, Yugoslavia, South Africa, to just name a few. Currently, I'm president of a foundation which has strong links with lawyers and judges in Central and Eastern Europe. And I never dreamt when I became an English judge in 1988 that I would be spending my time 21 years later talking to lawyers and judges in Ukraine about how to impress human rights norms into that country which has been under overseas domination for so long. So the challenge tonight is twofold. One, what can we do in this country to help those in Iran whose destiny lies very much in what they do and say, and what they're brave enough to do and say. We can all remember the people of Central Europe taking to the streets in their tens of thousands just before the Iron Wall came down. But secondly, what can we do for those who are victims and the families of the victims who were massacred in those dreadful events 21 years ago? Those are people, brave people, who were put to death for having the courage to stand up for what they was right. And as chairman of Prison for Conscience, I'm very conscious of what it means for the families. I'm a patron of another regime, which is going to have an event in London, not very far from here, in 6 weeks' time, which I've invited Lord Bingham, who retired as senior law lord last year, to come and chair, where one of the widows of the disappeared in Mexico in the 1970s is coming to talk to us and about her courageous fight to have her husband's case brought in front of the Inter-American Human Rights Commission. There's work to do. The professor talked about the idea of having a commission and tribunal on the lines of the Russell Tribunal 30 years ago. Whether it goes that way, whichever ways it goes, there is a challenge which will be posed to us tonight in London for those people who were massacred, executed without trial in Iran should not be forgotten. And there should be some way of doing justice on their behalf, which was not done to them when they were put to death. But that's all I want to say tonight except to announce, and we are really sorry to to have